Hello and welcome to the garden. So I'm continuing with the planting out, and in this video it's the turn of the melons. Now I do have a location outdoors where I might give a couple of melons a try because I've got some spare plants. But the main idea is to set these out in 4 of the cold frames here. So I've got 4 varieties. I've got Prescott, Blanc, Sucrin de Tours, Petit, Gris, de Rennes, and I'm supposed to have Blenheim Orange. Now, the other 3 germinated quickly and well. I think I had 100% germination on those. Blenheim Orange did nothing. And then some weeks later, long after I'd given up, the others were already potted on. 2 of the Blenheim Orange, 2 out of 8, did germinate. Now they're not great looking plants and they're nowhere near ready to go in the frames here. So I'm only going to plant out 3 of these frames today. If the Blenheim Orange seedlings pick up in the next week or 2 and start looking, well, a lot better than they do at the moment. They're rather weak and weedy looking specimens, but if they pick up, I shall plant them in the 4th frame. If not, I will put in a couple of the spares. Now I've got some weed membrane down here. I suppose I could use some old compost bags or something like that. They would serve a similar purpose, but this will let water through. Now this serves 2 useful purposes here. First, it will keep weed growth down, and secondly, it will keep the melons, assuming we get some, off of the soil. So I'm just going to cut out a couple of holes here that I can plant through, and I'm using an old soldering iron for that. It's quite handy as it seals the membrane as it cuts, helps to reduce fraying. I'm not entirely convinced by these plants. They're okay, but I think they could be rather better. I don't know if they haven't liked the growing conditions or the potting medium they're in, but I don't know. I think they could be a little bit more robust and vigorous. But anyway, that's what I have. So this one is Prescott. Now I'm going to put 2 plants in each frame, and the usual advice is to pinch out the tip after a few leaves have formed to encourage side branches to develop. New shoots will come from the leaf axils, just as with cucumbers and squash. Now, I'm not entirely wedded to that usual advice, to be honest. It can be a good thing to do, or then they can be quite happy just to scramble around. Now, what I don't want here is lots of fruit to set. It might sound a little strange, but what I want from each one of these melons are 2 per plant, and that would allow them to develop to their full size and hopefully produce some really good quality melons. So whether I pinch those out or not doesn't really matter. I may do. I'm going to see how they settle in for another week or 2 before I make any decisions on if and where I might pinch them out. So I'm not adding any extra feed in these frames. They had a really generous layer of horse compost this year, and that should be fine. If need be, I can always apply a liquid feed later in the season. Well, there's some nice root there. I think this plant ought to settle down quite happily. I'm not setting it too deep. Just the same as with other members of this family, the cucumbers, the winter squash, the summer squash. I don't think it's a good idea to set the plants too deep. Much better to sort of mound them up a little bit, because they are prone to rots around the stems. This one's lost one of its lower leaves, but that's not a problem. And it's not a bad idea to pinch out those seed leaves either. They're not serving any real purpose anymore. Just brush this old soil under here. So at the moment I'm keeping these frames propped up on bricks most of the time. I will need to make sure they're open for pollination when there are flowers on the melons, and I can always shut them down at night, keep the warmth in. And if I need more ventilation later, I can prop them up on some sticks. Well, it looks like all of the rain that we didn't get in April has decided to come along in May. Well, we certainly did need some rain. The garden was ever so dry, but I think we've had plenty now. Well, it's a bit of a straggly specimen, but it's got a good root system on it. These are at the stage where if I'm going to pinch them out, I should probably do that quite soon. They are quite sprawling, but they've already put out other side shoots, so I'm not sure that it's that important for me to do that in these frames. I think I could just let these ramble around here. Once they've set a couple of good fruit, once I'm certain that the fruit has set and is growing away well, I can pinch back the excess growth and just focus the plant's energies on a couple of decent fruit. That's assuming we get some, but I hope so. I haven't grown melons in these frames before. Now, these were always intended to have melons in them, but we never used them for it. We always use the greenhouses or the polytunnel, but I'd be really interested to see how the melons get on in the frames this year, and whether this is where we're going to grow them in the future. I hope so. It'd be quite convenient. I do need to increase the height of the frames here. I'll put some timber surround on top of the block work here, maybe another 5 inches or so. I don't know when I'll get round to that. It's probably not vital that I do it for the melons, but certainly it would have been beneficial for the Chima de Rapa and the radish that we had in here earlier in the year. but I will definitely be raising these up at some point. Well, I've got one more frame I can plant up today, and hopefully in a couple of weeks' time I'll be able to put the Blenheim Orange in the final frame. But that is all for this video, so thanks ever so much for watching, and bye for now.